I'd like to turn to regulation. I mean, I think you've raised some fascinating questions, and I'll probe you on those a little bit later. I'd like to turn to Ranee for a second. What lessons have Asians learned from the way that financial institutions were regulated in the West?
I think most of the financial regulators in Asia, jointly as well as individually, they took a lot of measures to ensure that the systems are stable, brought in new regulations, laws were reformed, and also at the same time they looked after not only the banks but also the consolidation of banks, especially with respect to the banks who are engaged in stock exchange activities and also those who are engaged in insurance.
Dominic, can I bring you in there? I mean, you know, some Asian economies have been criticized, rightly or wrongly, for being kind of conservative, cautious in their regulatory regimes.
You know, we shouldn't fool ourselves that Asia's in any well-developed financial markets. We don't have capital markets. It's still a very bank-intermediated system. I think that actually creates risks in and of itself. So there is a need, believe it or not, for financial innovation in China. And I think one of the reasons why Shanghai has been put out as a financial center is not to be a global financial center in 10 years, but actually to help spur the development of local capital markets, which are vital to be able to get the system going.
Ranee, I'd like to change the subject a little bit and talk about consumer credit. What should banks be doing to help them? Should they be doing? Should they be pushing the consumer credit line?
Since the macro fundamentals are now in stable condition, it's good to allow the banking industry a little more breathing space. So that being said, what you ought to do is to allow the banks to innovate and the industry as a whole to come up with market innovative products. In that context, yes, credit card is coming to a big usage, but at the same time, there has to be some guidelines issued by the regulators, and not to kill the industry, but just to give them some guidance, I mean, not to create bubbles which are going to be problematic.
What about China, Mr. Yi? I mean, the world's attention, in a sense, is on China, but certainly in order to kind of rebalance its growth, it would seem that it needs to, in Dominic's phrase, ignite the consumer. Consumption is low as a percentage of GDP.
下一步，我们宏观结构经济转型的重点，肯定是进一步扩大国内需求，来刺激国内消费。如果消费上不去，我们的经济增长的持续能力就会受到很大的制衡。我们觉得今后非常需要在内需扩大消费增长方面，金融业做更多的工作，不要由于次贷的危机对消费信贷觉得一棍子打死，这是我的一个观点。
Dominic, I just wanted to give you 30 seconds, maybe a minute, on international banks in Asia. Do they still have a role in this region?
If you're a Western player, you have to be in the region. And I think the issue will be some of the things that have already been mentioned about the, you know, the cultural side. What Kubo-san said, what are you actually bringing to the market? What capability? I actually think there are a number of the capabilities. I think on the wholesale side, as though that's not a popular thing to say these days, to bring that in, there are some, you know, deep strengths in the fixed income area is going to be a very important part of what to happen. So I actually think, strangely enough, on the capital market side, they'll play a role. I think there's a desire to get into the retail side to access some of the deposits, but they're going to have to learn more how each country works, because as you said at the very beginning, Asia is not one place.